Which tool are we talking about? We're talking about leaning into getting curious instead of furious. When someone is always assuming the negative and what we say, instead of getting upset, if we really want to get down to the heart of the matter so that we can interrelate in a different way in the future, we need to get curious about what's driving that person's response to what we're saying. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. Thank you so much for joining us again for another short talk on Talks with Dr. Shafer as we dive into concepts that help us master your mindset. Now, this week, we want to talk about assuming the negative. When it seems like someone is committed to misunderstanding you, how can you get curious instead of furious so that you can connect with them better in the future and in this moment? So let's get into it. Assuming the negative. Now, some people have a habit of assuming the negative. You can likely think of interactions with people who are always seeming to be committed to misunderstanding you or taking things the wrong way. For example, what if someone were to say, Taylor Swift deserves all of the success that she has. She's worked so incredibly hard for so long. Now, a person who assumes the negative could respond, What? Are you saying that all the other billions of people on the planet don't deserve what Taylor Swift has? They've worked just as hard for just as long. Now, the interesting thing about this argument is that it isn't really an argument at all. You see, an argument would be a diverging or differing opinion, such as Taylor Swift does not deserve it. And I'll tell you why, and would likely include more information that the arguing party felt they could present to strengthen their case. But what the person who assumes the negative responded was actually that because the person who was celebrating Taylor Swift mentioned her and not others, that they were asserting simultaneously that other people did not deserve the same success when saying that Taylor Swift did. But this is not really an argument. It is a distraction from the topic at hand, and it has a lot of presumption and projection that the listener is trying to hoist upon the person who's bringing their opinion. And this is a small example of how some people will try to distract us from the topic at hand by assuming the worst in our intentions and projecting beliefs upon us that we have not actually voiced. Now, when this happens, and especially when someone's coming with a great deal of frustration or anger in this situation, or perhaps it's a pattern that we've experienced with this person multiple times in the past, it's really easy to fall into the trap of counter reactivity, of meeting energy with energy. We all understand now that we have mirror neurons, and it is quite natural to meet someone where they are coming to you from. So if someone is frustrated and angry, it's really easy to reflexively end up in the same state of mind and presentation, even if that's not what you would like to do in that moment. And here's where mastering our mindset is really key, because we don't have to join this person where they are. Instead of becoming upset and incredulous over being accused of saying something that we have not said, we could instead start to ask questions. We can leave our ego to the side and get curious instead of furious. Because we do not need to defend ourselves for saying something that we never said. We don't need to address the other person's projections that they have made upon us. That may be their opinion of what we said, but we know what we said. The important part of trying to get clarity on where this conversation is headed is to ask questions about what the other person is perceiving that led to their response. It would be perfectly acceptable to disengage with this person at this point if that is what serves you and your nervous system at this time. That is absolutely acceptable. But if you want to get curious and understand the why behind the incredulence that you're being met with, if that's something interesting to you or you think will help you connect with this person now and in the future, you have another option. You can lean in and ask the questions. Instead of saying, "That's not what I said," you could simply reply, "What did you hear me say?" This alone can be incredibly enlightening and disarming. People hear from their own perspective. They don't just take what you say at face value, so to speak. This is in part why eyewitness reports of events are so unreliable. We are not seeing the world as it is. We are seeing the world through the lens of our own experiences and our ability to understand what we are seeing. We interpret and respond to what we hear, but what we hear isn't necessarily exactly what is said. And even more disarming, when we ask someone what they heard, we are giving weight to their experience. We are not saying that what they heard us say and the assumptions they made or projections that they voiced are true, but we are saying you're having an experience. That is valid that you are having an experience. I want to understand it better so that our communication can become clear, because right now I'm feeling confused about where this conversation is going because it's not the direction I thought we were headed in. When we are in conflict with someone, simply asking the question, "What did you hear me say?" will give you insight into how the person you're communicating with is experiencing you, which will give you insight not into who you are, but into how they see the world and how they interpret others' interactions with them. You see, some of us have not had the best experience with people. And when that is your experience, your nervous system may be in a low level fight or flight, fawn, or freeze response near constantly. If all you have ever known is fight, your nervous system seeks to find the old familiar patterns. It knows how to respond to fight, and it wants to be ready. It wants to keep you safe. So when you are interacting with someone who sees each engagement as a fight, consider approaching the interaction with curiosity and with the appropriate boundaries to protect your peace, and recognize that the energy and interpretation that this other person is bringing to your exchange is based on their own life experience and not who you are. This allows you to set your ego to the side and get curious, not furious or reactive to what they are telling you. Just as they do not know your inner world, you do not know theirs. But by asking questions and hearing them out, you can not only learn more about this person, but also provide a data point to them that, in fact, the world doesn't always want to fight you. And that's worth doing. We all need to hear that message. That not every intention is an ill one. Now, you don't owe this to anyone. But if you are in a situation where you want to seek connection and understanding, this perspective taking can be a real game changer. And this can not only help you with your interpersonal relationships at home, with your friendships, romantic relationships, or family, to try to bridge the gap between what you're saying and how they're responding. This can be a key way to connect in a more effective way and productive way at work, with a client, with your colleagues, with your boss. By practicing perspective taking and getting curious, not furious, and making sure that you are not counter projecting against what they are projecting onto you and getting more and more muddy and unclear as the conversation goes on. If we can practice perspective taking, getting curious and not furious with someone who is assuming the negative about us, leave our ego to the side, we truly can learn to master our mindset and communicate more effectively with better outcomes for us and the people that we are engaging with. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this short talk has been useful for you, storytellers. I'm so glad you're here. I would love to know what concepts you would like to learn more about as we together are mastering our mindset so that we can learn how to reclaim our stories and build our most beautiful future. Thank you so much for being here. Please make sure that you subscribe to the show so that you not only don't miss the upcoming short talks where we work on mastering our mindset and reclaiming our stories to build our most beautiful future, but we also have every Tuesday episodes where I speak with guests who are so incredibly inspiring, who share how they have reclaimed their story and are building beautiful futures and making such a positive impact on the world through the work that they have done to take back their own lives. Thank you so much for joining me again this week on Talks with Dr. Shafer. Until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.